All right, I'm going to show you guys how to draw the proportions for a face. So if you're doing this digitally or in real life, you're going to want to draw a 5-inch line. Now, if you're doing it digitally, obviously you don't have a ruler to work with, but you want it to be broken apart into 5 sections. So as long as you can take the line and split it into 5 equal sections, you are good to go. And you want to draw a 5-inch line somewhere in the middle of your paper vertically and somewhere in the middle of your paper horizontally. So what I mean by that is from the top to the bottom of my paper, there's like about equal space, just a little bit more on the bottom by mistake. But I also have a little bit on the left side and a little bit on the right side. So it's not perfectly centered, but it's close to it. I'm so sorry about the lighting in this room. Now with that line, I'm going to put my ruler back under it, and I'm going to mark 0. So where the ruler starts. And then I'm using the inches. The inches are the bigger numbers, not the smaller ones. I'm going to mark 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, and 5 inch. Now I'm also going to mark 2.5 inches so that way I know where the nose goes since it's directly in the center. So I'm going to mark that one at 2.5 inches, just a little bit longer so I know the difference. However, just so you know, in between 2 and 3, there is a long line. The longest line in between the 2 and 3 is going to be the halfway mark. So that's exactly where 2.5 is going to land. So mark 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with little dashes, and then mark 2.5 with a little bit of a longer dash. Now notice I didn't make like a huge dot. I didn't make a side to side line. I made a vertical little dash. And that's just going to exactly tell me where those marks are so that I'm not just measuring willy-nilly. I'm actually right at the inch mark, right at the 2-inch mark, so on and so forth. So there's my horizontal axis. That's going to be where my eye line is going to sit on. Now I'm going to draw my vertical axis, and that's going to hit right at the middle line here. And what I want to do is make it the same on the top as it is on the bottom, as I showed you in class. So what I'm going to do is draw 3 inches up from that line and 3 inches down from that line. It doesn't matter how you do that, but just make sure that it's perfectly vertical. So what I like to do is put it right at a number. It doesn't matter which number. So I'll just put it right at the 7-inch mark. And I have it matched up with my middle dash. So I know I'm going straight up and straight down from that. And I'm just going to go 3 inches up from that, 3 inches down from that. So I'm going to go 7, 8, 9, 10. And 7, 6, 5, 4. And that's going to be my axis. Now, as you're drawing these, draw these lightly because you're going to erase them later on. So now I have my middle axis. It is 6 inches long this way. It's 5 inches long this way, but it's broken apart in the middle of this 6-inch line with my horizontal axis. Now I'm going to draw. I'm kind of wait till it, make sure you can see it on there. There was a way to change the lighting, but it's not working for me. And that just made it worse. So we're just going to go back. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to draw an egg shape. So usually people's face shapes are a little bit wider on the top, like more round, and then they pinch down at the bottom where the chin line is. So I think of it like an upside down egg, and I'm going to connect all the ends of my lines with an egg shape. And a lot of people tend to like draw straight lines like that and make it like a diamond, like a kite shape, and that's not what you want. You want it to be rounded. So I'm taking the end of this line and I'm using my like pinky bone as a almost like a compass point, and I'm curving my line up so that it hits the top of the line I drew. So it hits exactly the top of that line. And then you can go back and kind of round it up more if you want to. Then I'm going to do the bottom part. So I'm taking the bottom part of the line and I'm going to do this a little bit more directly. So it looks like they have like a cheekbone. So if I was doing it out further, it would be like this. So it's just in a little further. It's not a straight line, however, it still curves. Let it focus for a second. It'll change the, see that a little bit better. Sorry about the buttons on the bottom. I'll draw a darker line so you guys can see it. And I can do this digitally in class with you guys so you can see it better too. So there's my one side of my face. The hardest part drawing the face is trying to make it symmetrical on both sides, but nobody's perfectly symmetrical. I promise you that. So you're going to try to do the same thing on the other side. So start on the top and try to round out the forehead. Again, you can use your knuckle as like a compass. However, on one side, it's going to be harder to do than the other. I find it easier to do the right side of the face since I'm left-handed. It's easier to arc that way. You might find it the easier way on the other side or with me, depending on what hand you're using. So I'm just doing like sketchy lines to try to figure out where I want the final to go. And that's about the shape of the face. You can add it if you want to, change it how you want to, make it more tapered in. If you wanted to add it like more of a cheekbone, you can even taper it in a little bit over here, then come out again. Completely up to you. Now, we have the spacing for where our eyes are going to go all set up for us already. That's why I drew that 5-inch line for the beginning. So we're going to erase between 1 and 2, where we marked 1 and 2, and we're going to erase in between 3 and 4. I'm taking my eraser, erasing the main horizon line just in between 1 and 2 and just in between 3 and 4. I'm going to leave the outside lines because that's going to help us with our ears later on. Okay, so now I have nothing in between these two and these two over here. So that's where our eyes are going to go. Now you might be thinking, looking at this, it looks like an alien. Why does it look so alien-like, Ms. Norris? So they don't have hair on it. And I don't know, just drawing from the get-go, from the beginning, if you don't shade the face at all, it looks alien-like. Sorry, it's just how it is. It'll get better, I promise. So we're going to draw our eye shapes. Now, eye shapes are very different. They vary between people. So sometimes you'll see like more of a football shaped eye. Sometimes it's more pinched at the ends. It's up to you how you want to draw these. However, if you make it too arced on the top or the bottom, it's going to look like the person's looking like you like this. So please just keep that in mind. So I like to start at the mark that I made and just go up a little and down a little. And then start at the mark I made, go down even less and go up. I make more of an arc on the top than I do on the bottom. Easy peasy. Again, the hardest part is making these symmetrical. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Up and down and up. And then I'm going to back away and look at my picture. See if it's symmetrical or not. If it's not symmetrical, I'm going to try to fix it just a little bit. Again, nobody's perfectly symmetrical, so it's okay if it's not perfect. Wait till it focuses. There we go. It's close enough. I'm okay with it. I could shade the rest and make it look realistic. So we have our like little football pinch shapes. Now realize these are pinched at the ends. It's not like a whole oval. You don't want like a big oval. You want it to be pinched at the end so it looks like the eye ends together. The eyelids end together. Now, eyes, irises, and pupils are perfectly circular. If you draw the whole circle visible, it's going to look like your person is surprised. If you draw it covered up on the top and the bottom, it's going to look like they're looking at you straight on, like normally. If they're looking up, you're going to just see the bottom half of the iris. If they're looking down, you're going to see the top half of the iris. So it depends on how you want to draw this person. I'm going to draw it straight on so you guys can see just like a generic example. So I'm going to draw the circles. Now, they have to be perfectly circular. If you don't draw them circularly and you draw them more like ovals, it's going to look non-human. So what I do is I usually teach people by drawing an actual full circle. So if you find something that's about the size and you can just draw the whole circle and then just erase the part that's underneath the eyelid, that's great. A lot of people tend to do this. And then you have like a snake cat person and it looks weird. And you're like, why does this look like not human? It's because you didn't bump it out enough on the sides. So make sure if you were to complete these lines that you would have a perfect circle. Okay, I'm gonna erase my little snake guy. Then we are going to add our pupils. The pupils are black. Everybody's pupils are black, but you're usually in a room or outside where there's some sort of light source cast on that pupil and it has a reflection since the moist, wet surface because your eyes always stay wet. So instead of coloring the whole thing in black, you want to leave a little tiny white space in there to represent the highlight. And usually I like to do the highlight on the same side of both of the eyes. So it looks like the light source is coming from the same angle. So I'll do a pupil and I won't color it in fully because I want to show you the size of it. If you draw the pupil too big, it's going to look like they're in a really dark room. If you do them too small, it's going to look like they're in like a super sunny place where it's like really bright. Okay, your pupil changes size depending on the lighting in the room, and other things, but that's like the main thing. So I'm gonna make it about that size. So try to proportionally do it about the same as what I did here. And then again, I'm gonna shade the whole thing in except for I'm gonna leave a little tiny white space. So I'm gonna leave it on my left side and I'm gonna shade the whole thing in dark. The darkest tone that I can get on both of them. Now my person was super creepy, so we're going to use some shading techniques that we went over in class. So I'm going to use tonal shading, and I'm going to use tonal shading, and I'm going to use basically darken the outside of my iris and make it lighter towards the middle. You will have it lighter if it's like blue eyes, green eyes, hazel eyes than a brown-eyed person, but they still tend to get lighter towards your pupil. If you look at your eye, you look at any eye examples, you'll notice this. So what I like to do is just darken around the outside, and then I start to lighten towards the pupil. Since we're just doing like a black and white version or like a grayscale version. Same thing on this side, I'm going to darken. Press pretty hard on the outside and make it lighter towards the middle. This might remind you of the spears that we did at the beginning of the year. And I even darken a little bit at the top and the bottom. That just helps make it pop a little bit more. Same thing on the other side. Darken around the outside of the iris, lighten towards the pupil. I'm shading around here, but I'm also going to darken the top and the bottom. Darken the side, lighter towards the pupil. Now this is an add-on that I like to do, and we'll look at eyes during class really fast to show you that this actually happens. But people have like little veins in their eye, and they generally go from the outside of the iris towards their pupil. They might just look like pretty lines in their eye. So I'm using my mechanical eraser to get rid of this little bottom part. So you can add those if you want to. You don't have to, but it tends to make it look more realistic. I wish I could zoom in, but there's no option for that. So I just take from the outside going in and I press hard on the outside, and then I let up the weight of my hand so it gets lighter towards the middle all the way around the outside. So I'm going to show you over here what I mean. Pretend this is my iris. I just took it and went like this around the outside. So like a reverse sun. Like a little starlight mint, if you will. All right. Now, we're going to leave it alone for a little bit. We're going to do some eyelids and some cornea, like tear ducts. The tear ducts go towards your nose. So what I like to do is just make like a little cavity right here, like with a little parenthesis, like an open parenthesis and a shut parenthesis over here. So it looks like there's something in the corner that it goes towards. And then from those, I just do some really light shading above the eye. Now this is tonal shading. I'm doing really light. However, everybody's eyeballs are set back into your skull. So you need shading above the eye until the eyebrow to make it appear like that. If I take my glasses off, I hope you guys can see it. It looks darker above people's eyes and below them because your eyes are in your socket, in your eyeball socket. Same thing on the other side. I'm just doing light shading. Maybe about an inch upwards if you're using measurements. And we're going to shade the whole face. So I'm just going to come in here and kind of scooch it all in here. And we're going to smudge it later because we're going to save smudging for the nose because we're going to use the eye for the nose. It'll make sense later, I promise. So let's just draw the eyelids in there next. And you're just going to basically draw like a crease, like a line that goes from your tear duct above the eye. And then it just tapers off towards the corner. So tear duct up above the eye. And then to the corner. And if you really wanted to later, you could like erase a little highlight on there, but that's like the basic setting of the eye. We're gonna do the eyelashes and eyebrows later, so we're just gonna leave that alone for now. We're gonna hop onto the nose. So for the nose, I'm going to use my ruler again to mark